So we're starting to see a common trend here. We are talking about the three monetary policies. Then we take those three monetary policies. We discussed about how it's going to increase or decrease loans, and that increase or decreasing the loans is going to affect the money supply. And now is when, over the next couple of videos, is where we get into talking about how it really affects the money supply. So I'm going to say this again. How do banks make money? They make money using loans. That's how they make money. They borrow it from somebody. Basically, they borrow it from the depositors. You, if you're putting money in the bank, they're taking money from you in your checking account, your depositing or your savings account, and loaning it out to somebody else. They borrow it from you at a low interest rate, loan it out at a high interest rate, and make a profit in between. So let's go through the order of the creation of money. One thing the Fed does is they create that money, or they decrease the amount of money in that money supply, and they do that through loans. So a bank, let's just say a bank loans you $800,000 for your business. You're starting up a brand new business, they loan you $800,000, and what do you do with that money? You take that $800,000 and you go and you buy the necessary goods for that business. Let's say that you're starting up a meat packing house. You're starting up a slaughterhouse, and they give you that $800,000 for that business. So you use that money, you go and you buy tools with it, you buy the blades, you buy the cutters, you buy the machinery, you buy the knives, you buy all of the freezers and everything you need for that business. So you take that $800,000 and you're buying things with it, right? So you buy all of those necessary goods. The businesses that you bought those goods from, such as the refrigerator store or the refrigerant store, where you bought those freezers. What do you think that store, that company, that business is going to do with the money you just paid them by buying those freezers? Well, they're going to do what everybody else does. They're going to go and deposit that money in the bank. So you borrow $800,000. You go and buy everything you need with it. All the businesses that you bought everything from then takes that money and puts it in their respective banks. Guess what? These respective banks, they take this to the banks that have just received these additional funds, this deposited money, they take it and they loan it out to somebody else. So you were given a loan from the bank, and then you take that money, buy stuff with it, and then everybody that you bought stuff from it puts that money in the bank, and then the bank takes the money that was originally loaned out to you and they're loaning it out to somebody else. Starting to see what's going on here? So then that person takes the funds, the one that the second loan is being made to, they take the funds, they go and buy something else with it. And guess what? Those funds are then deposited into another bank. And that other bank will take that money, and it just keeps going. So you take the first loan is essentially deposited into a bank. The banks take the first loan deposits, loan out more money with it, and then that second loan gets deposited, and then the second bank that it gets deposited in, or the third bank that it gets deposited in, makes more loans, and now you've got a third loan, and that trend is going to keep continuing until there's no more money to loan out. Well, why would there ever be any money to loan out? Well, there winds up becoming less money to loan out because of these required reserves. So a bank has the following scenario. They have $10 million in deposits. They're required to keep a reserve ratio of 20%. So they must keep $2 million in reserves. So they have a loanable funds of $8 million. They have $10 million in deposits. Must keep $2 million. They loan out $8 million, and they loan out all of those $8 million. So now they have no more funds to loan out. And now let's say that the Fed decides that they're going to sell government securities. So they're going to go ahead and sell those. Actually, I'm sorry, I got that backwards. Now let's say the Fed is going to buy $1 million of government securities. Remember, if the Fed is buying that, then they are basically taking money out of the U.S. or out of their vaults and giving it to the citizens that are buying it. So the Fed is buying $1 million of government securities. That $1 million is deposited and are added to banks. Because they are buying it, they're paying the the citizens. The citizens take the money that they just got paid for those government securities, they put them in the bank, and they add $1 million of these deposits are added to the banks. So now, instead of that bank having just $10 million in deposits, they now have $11 million in deposits. So they add that extra $1 million. The bank still must keep 20% in reserves. So they keep that 20% of that $1 million. So they keep $200,000 additionally in reserves. And they loan out the rest. So they loan out $800,000. That's that $800,000 that got loaned out to that business right there. So the new required reserves, they must keep $2,200,000 in reserves, whereas they can loan out $8,800,000 that they can loan out. Well, since they had only loaned out $800,000 or $8 million before, and they now have this additional $800,000 they can loan out, they loan out that money to a business, and then this little chain of events where Bank 1 loans the money out, and then it goes into, it's deposited into Bank 2. Bank 2 then takes their deposits, loan out to somebody else, goes into Bank 3, and so on and so forth. So that's how we have a creation of deposits. And it's all happening because with our checking accounts, they're just entries into an account. We're not really dealing with physical currency, so we can keep just basically adding more money into it.